Hey, what's up, everybody? Mr. Imes coming at you with this week's project. So, if you've opened up the email that I sent you, the project that we'll be working on this week is called Defense Mechanisms. And so, what I'd like you to do while you're watching this video would be great if you could potentially have this on your screen, the Defense Mechanisms picture that I sent you. So if you could look at that while I'm discussing it, that would probably be most beneficial to you. So with defense mechanisms, the big concept of this is that we're looking to try to react in pressure situations as positively as we possibly can. That's often really difficult to do, and not just for kids, but for adults as well. The key concept is to try to control your emotions in these pressure situations. And the truth is that more often than not, your initial reaction to pressure situations is not always positive, right? And this kind of comes from our ancestors that passed on our fight or flight response, and you guys have probably heard that before. Back then, we needed to be able to respond in the blink of an eye when our lives were in danger, right? And so a lot of times that meant fighting or running as quickly as you can away from a situation. But now that we are in the year 2020, those type of responses don't do super well in our society, right? People that react that way tend not to do very well, just in the society that we live in, right? And so we kind of find ourselves in a situation where you have to fight what your core wants to do in pressure situations. All of us have, and then now there's a third thing called freeze, and so it used to be just fight or flight. Now they have this freeze option, and none of those situations, like if we're talking about school related pressure situations where a student bumps into you, or says something that you don't like, or a teacher calls on you and you don't know the answer, or you get blamed for something that you may not have done, or even if you get called out on something that you did do. Those are all pressure situations, and fighting, running, or and when I say fighting, it doesn't necessarily mean just physical, like verbal fights as well. None of those are really great options in a classroom. So we have to really kind of check what our initial response is, and kind of figure out how can we control our emotions to get through that initial response that we want to do, and come up with a response that protects our feelings, because that's what a defense mechanism is. A defense mechanism is just something that protects your feelings. It's like a bulletproof vest for your feelings. And so we need to be able to still protect ourselves, but do it in a way that doesn't hurt us. All right. So the way that you know that a defense mechanism is positive is that it helps you and it doesn't hurt you or anyone else. It's about as simple as that. If a defense mechanism that you've chosen makes a situation worse, like it hurts you or it hurts others, you know that it's a negative defense mechanism. But if it helps you and you're able to still protect yourself, then that's a positive one. So if you're looking at your photo, what I want to do is go to flag number 2. Flag number 2 just kind of asks you to think about, if we were in class, we'd be listing off responses of like, hey, to these situations. So flag number 2 lists about 16 or 20 different situations that we could have positive or negative responses to, such as getting yelled at, laughed at, disrespected, getting hurt, getting blamed, getting frustrated. There's all sorts of different responses that can come from those types of situations. What I want you to think about is think of a situation that that you and this is a time where you just kind of be honest with yourself and think of what's a situation that I tend to struggle with when it comes to making the right choice, and think back on the reality ride. What are situations where I tend to make that kind of easier path choice instead of the harder but worth it choice. So it could be if I get picked on, I tend to react poorly. If I get blamed, or if I get embarrassed, or if I lose at a game of Uno, I tend not to react. So think of what is that situation that we tend to struggle with making the right choice. And now is the time to start making a game plan for, because I can tell you that those situations are going to come up, that you're not done finding that situation in your life. So the best thing that you can do is make a game plan of when I come back into that situation, what is a choice that I can make that is a win-win situation, that I am able to make a positive choice that doesn't make my freedoms and opportunities smaller, but you're still able to protect yourself. So, like, for example, one thing, and I'm sure my brother doesn't mind me using this, but when we were growing up, my brother's a year younger than me, and he was not a great reader when we were in elementary, and what he would do was, when the English teacher would be having the whole class read, and then I don't know if teachers do this any longer, where every student is told that they need to read a paragraph. When his turn would be coming up for his turn to read, instead of having his classmates know that he struggled with reading, he'd end up either talking to the kid next to him, or just kind of smacking, and play hitting is usually a friend around him, and he knew that would get him sent out of class, or into the hallway, or to the office, and he'd get out of that pressure situation. So his defense mechanism was to protect his feelings, because he didn't want his buddies knowing that he wasn't great at reading. And so I think we would all say that getting sent out of class, getting in trouble, that hurts you. So that's a negative. It's a defense mechanism, but it's a negative defense mechanism. So that's an example, like a real world example of somebody using a negative defense mechanism in a pressure situation to protect their feelings. All right, go to step 6 on your picture. We're skipping around a little bit because a lot of this, what we would do in class would be, list 5 or 6 positive defense mechanisms, list 5 or 6 negative defense mechanisms. So instead of me giving you a bunch, at the end of this video, your guys' project for this week is going to be create a PowerPoint. And so some of these numbers that I'm skipping around, I'm going to have you do on your own, so that I can see your thinking on it. So anyway, we're going to go to step 6. Step 6 is kind of the steps to control your defense mechanism. So the first step is to kind of realize the situation. All right, so understand, you got to really understand yourself. What situations do you tend to kind of find yourself being forced to make a decision on a defense mechanism? When you realize you're in a pressure situation, the signs are that you could be angry, frustrated, or nervous. All right, so those are 3 really uncomfortable feelings. And so I mean, we need to be making sure that if we can right now, if we can be coming up with a list of different ways to respond than in the heat of the moment, because remember, more often than not, in the heat of the moment, when you're trying to make a decision, our decisions, and not just students but adults, like in the very heat of the moment, our initial response tends not to be the greatest response. And so it's a great thing to have kind of in your back pocket knowledge of, okay, when I find myself in a situation, I need to be thinking about doing this so that I can be making a positive defense mechanism choice. One of the other topics of big topics of this defense mechanism subject is that we've got to make sure we're not allowing other people to control our choices, right? So you see this all the time where somebody somebody disrespects you, right? You get disrespected, and you immediately want to throw it back, right? You want to disrespect them. You're no longer in control. That person is now controlling your decision, right? The choice of disrespecting that person was made because of the other person's actions. So you're now being controlled. Your choices, your defense mechanism is being controlled by others. And so we've got to really make sure that when we decide we're going to do something, it's not based on what others are doing. Because I mean we're giving them all the power. You want to stay in control and make sure that when you're choosing your defense mechanisms, that it's your personal choice and that you're not just reacting to what the world is doing around you. So again, it's really important to be just and especially when you're in like a calm state, like hopefully you are right now, that you can be real and think about, yeah, I really hate it when I get blamed for something. I really hate it when I'm asked to sit in my assigned seat, right? So if you know that about yourself, now's a great time to be thinking about ways that you can react that make the situation much more positive, and it doesn't put you in a worse situation than where you are current, than being angry, frustrated, or nervous. And then the next step, you guys, is just practice making that next positive solution choice. Okay, that positive defense mechanism choice is the next one. So understand the situation. Come up with a game plan of how you can react, and then in that situation, make that choice. Really, and it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. Okay, let's see here. I think we're wrapping up. I don't want to, continue saying the same thing over and over again, but really the biggest things that I want you guys to think about this is that very similarly to what we talked about in the reality ride, that you can the choices that we make are our own more often than not, right? You get to choose the way that you respond in situations, but the consequence that comes with that is usually not something that we get to choose. And so we want to make sure that we're continuing to make choices that provide more opportunities, more freedom, and for when it comes to protecting your feelings, everybody wants to protect their feelings. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. Nobody wants to be scared, angry. And so it's really important that if you're choosing certain situations or certain ways to protect your feelings, that you're doing it in a way that does not make the situation worse. So for example, if you are asked to do something that you don't want to do in class, right? I know that certain responses that I've seen range from refusal, saying no, and just a whole gamut of other responses. If you're being asked to do something that makes you uncomfortable, one of the options could be asking for a break, or asking, hey, can I do just this amount of the work and then have access to a break, or can I have some help, please? Or can I talk to the teacher out in the hallway and kind of explain what might be going on if the teacher doesn't understand the situation? And so those are examples of ways where you're in control of the situation. You stay in control, and you're making a choice that does not make the situation worse, right? All right, so guys, I will see you on Tuesday. I am excited. Please make sure that you watch this video and get started on your project. And if you have any questions, I'll see you on Tuesday. And anyway, miss you guys, and can't wait to hopefully see you guys again soon. All right, bye.